Hey everyone, my name is Aaron Rift, and this video is my 7 reasons why Breaking Bad is the greatest television show ever produced. Now, before I get started, this video will contain spoilers. That's just a warning out there. You might want to watch this video at a later date if you are not familiar with the show at all. Also, this video will contain some graphic language as well as some graphic stills from the television show. Again, if you do not want to see or hear any of this, watch the show at a later time. I hope you enjoy the video. Number 1, the story. I've never watched another television show that started off so strong and not only managed to stay consistent, but somehow keep getting better and better and peak right at the very end of the series. To me, the absolute climax of Breaking Bad was Tahajali and Ozymandias, which were the fourth to last and third to last episodes, respectively. As I mentioned, Breaking Bad starts off strong with the pilot episode quickly establishing the characters and the plot. Walter White is a person you immediately sympathize with. He's a good guy, a school teacher that, as Hank puts it, was dealt a shit hand by being diagnosed with cancer. As the series progresses, you see the evolution of Walt and the other characters. One of the things that I love about the writing is how you see the characters dig themselves into deeper and deeper holes. There's one instance where Walt has the opportunity to get out of his situation, but his pride and his ego prevent him from doing so. He also wants Hank to catch him because he wants credit for being Heisenberg, and I also feel that he loves the thrill of being chased by Hank. Part of the great writing is developing the relationships between the characters. You see how Jesse's character starts off as this fun-loving slacker and how he completely becomes broken, a broken shell of a man by the end. You see how Walt pretty much becomes a father figure to Jesse, but then you see how jealous Walt gets when Jesse gets close to Mike. And of course, you get to see how the relationships evolve between Walt and Skyler, as well as Hank and Marie, as the situations escalate. I like the fact that the characters stay true to themselves. Their dialogue and their actions are always believable and fit with what you would expect them to say and do under the circumstances. There was almost never a moment where I felt a piece of dialogue did not fit the character. The show maintains a good, steady pace during its duration. The plot is always consistently moving forward. With some TV shows, you have some episodes that are good and then some that are not so good. There are times I'll watch a show and I'll feel like what I'm watching is not relevant to anything and it's just there to fill time. With Breaking Bad, there are very few weak episodes. Almost every episode is important and it advances the overall plot and there's very little filler. If anything, I'd say the Fly episode was the only episode that you could probably skip and not miss much. Another thing that is consistent about Breaking Bad is that the season premieres and the season finales are all strong episodes, as they should be. One of the best things about the show is that the cliffhangers keep you on the edge of your seat, and it's like this from the beginning all the way to the very end. It's like reading a book that is so well written that you cannot wait to get to the next page. Number 2, the characters. Almost all the characters on Breaking Bad have likable traits despite their flaws. You could put yourself in the shoes of the characters and you understand their actions, even if you disagree with what they are doing. Most of the characters that you like will find ways to rationally justify their actions. For instance, even though Jesse makes poor choices, you have tremendous sympathy for him because he kills someone point blank, like when he shot Gale, because you know he had to do it in order to save Walt's life. And you see the agony in Jesse's face as he's doing it. The transformation of Walter White from the ultimate protagonist to antagonist is flawless. You love Walter right off the bat and you feel sympathetic towards him. But as the series progresses, your hatred for him grows and you always understand why he does it, but you cannot help but dislike the path he goes down. And one minute you go from hating the guy to the next minute feeling sorry for him. The characters that you don't like tend to be on the irrational side, and that's what makes it easy for you to root against them. Tuco, they try to reason with him, but he's a loose cannon, he's a drug addict, and he'll kill his own guy for no good reason whatsoever. Then you have Todd, who's a guy that comes off as having no conscience whatsoever. He can shoot a kid and a woman and torture people without feeling any remorse. The characters are also extremely intelligent, which for me makes it easier to like them and root for them. The dynamic between Walt and Gus and that whole storyline, it's like a game of human chess. And you think while watching that perhaps Walt has met his intellectual match. Number 3, drama and comedy. I've never watched a show that has done a better job of blending together drama with comedy. If Breaking Bad was a musical piece, the creators knew how to hit every right note. The show is dramatic at all the right times, and there is humor to break up those intense moments. The thing that's great about the humor is that it comes naturally and it doesn't take away from those dramatic moments. For example, you have the most awkward dinner ever between Walt, Skyler, and Jesse that manages to be tense as hell, yet funny at the same time. Then you have the restaurant scene towards the end of the series when Walt and Skyler meet up with Hank and Marie. It's a very intense moment here, but then you have the waiter showing up out of nowhere to suddenly create this funny and awkward situation. What's good about it is that it's something that could absolutely happen in real life, which is why it works so well and it doesn't come off as forced humor. The relationship in the beginning of the series between Walt and Jesse reminds me of a classical comedy team like Laurel and Hardy or Abbott and Costello, where they're getting into these situations that are way over their heads. One particular moment for me that stands out is when Walt and Jesse are stuck in the desert with Walt being the straight man and Jesse being the funny man. Number 4, the world-class acting. Sir Anthony Hopkins, considered to be one of the world's most respected actors, called Bryan Cranston's performance in Breaking Bad as the greatest acting he has ever seen. Bryan Cranston can be funny one minute when he's throwing a pizza on the roof, and the next minute he can make you cry when he's talking to Skyler on the phone at the end of Ozymandias. The acting on this show is second to none. These actors know how to tell a story not just with the delivery of their dialogue, but also with their body language and their facial expressions. There are a lot of little things I noticed the actors doing that are effective without having them to say a word. For instance, when Jesse is in the cartel's lab and he stands up to them, the scene cuts to a shot of Mike, who makes the very slightest expression, but it indicates how proud he is of Jesse standing up to the cartel. I love that scene. Also, the very end of the finale, you have Walt and Jesse exchanging looks with each other, and you can tell just from their expressions that they have made peace with each other, and that's very satisfying at the end of this show. I give the people that were in charge of Breaking Bad all the credit in the world for selecting an outstanding cast from top to bottom. To me, you know an actor nails a role when you cannot imagine any other person playing that same role. Almost every major character has a moment that left a lasting impression on me personally. Anna Gunn's performance in Ozymandias as Walt was leaving with Holly gave me absolute chills. I got chills just looking at the still image of it. That was one of the best acting performances I've ever seen on any television show, any movie, period. Then you had Dean Norris and his role as a loudmouth cop, and there were times where I felt annoyed by him, but his acting performance as he was struggling to recover from being shot really made me care about his character and what happened to that character. And then you had the awesome villains on Breaking Bad. You have Giancarlo Esposito as Gus Fring, who does this remarkable job playing this character with a double life. On the outside, he's this nice, mild-mannered owner of Los Polos Hermanos, and on the inside, he's this cold-blooded killer who can be scary as hell just by slitting his employee's throat just to make a point. Then you have Bob Odenkirk as Saul Goodman. All I could say about him is he took the ball and he ran with it. He ran with it so hard that he got his own spin-off show. Again, I could not imagine any other actor in the entire world playing Saul Goodman any better than Bob Odenkirk. And what else can I say about Jonathan Banks other than he plays one of the most badass characters I've ever seen, period. Number 5, the dialogue. It's not just the abilities of the actors, but also the dialogue that they are given that makes Breaking Bad so awesome. There's so many memorable lines throughout the entire series. I'm the one who knocks, bitch. Say my name, bitch. When Saul Goodman says, don't drink and drive, but if you do, call me, bitch. I am the danger, bitch. And I can go on. I could go on forever. There are also many speeches throughout the entire series that I felt were very impactful. I remember Walt's speech during the talking pillow scene and how powerful it was when he talked about wanting to battle cancer on his own terms. This was another example of Breaking Bad's serious drama being blended with comedy in a natural way when Walt grabs the pillow and says, I got the talking pillow now. It's just funny. And then you have Jesse Pinkman, beaten up in the hospital with one eye shut. Great makeup job, by the way. That's another reason if I want to do 8. But you have Jesse there, one eye shut, lashing out at Walt in the hospital. Another tremendous acting performance. And great speech about how Walt turned his life to shit. At one point, you have Walt on the verge of leaving the meth business when Gus gives Walt the speech about how Walt should provide for his family even if he isn't respected or loved for it. And this is what keeps Walt going. And another speech, which is a turning point in the series, is when Mike tells Walt about how he, Mike, should have taken a full measure and instead he had taken a half measure and he would never make that mistake again. And like I said, this would be a very critical turning point in the series. And of course, you have the final episode where Walt finally tells the truth to Skyler when he tells her, I did it for me, and how he liked it and how he was good at it. Number 6, the cinematography. The people in charge of Breaking Bad really made the most of the Albuquerque location. The shots of the ABQ desert are spectacular. I love everything about how this show is filmed, from the camera angles to the lighting. The way the scenes are shot enhance what you are watching and help set the mood. There's one scene towards the end of the series where Walt walks into a room to speak with Skyler, and Walt is this dark, shadowy Michael Myers-like figure, and I think that's tremendous. I think it was really well done, that shot. And then there's also a lot of creative camera angles. For example, the scene of Walt having dinner with Skyler and Walt Jr. This is right around the time that Skyler asked for a divorce, and you have this divide between Walt and his family. He's on the verge of losing his family, and the camera shot has the post in the living room separating Walt from his family. I thought that was great. Then you have the special effects, which are just as good as anything you've seen in a big budgeted movie. You have everything from the twins walking away from an explosion like bosses to the iconic image of Gus having his face blown off. You also have some quality action sequences, such as the epic train robbery and then the shootout in the desert between Hank, Gomez, and Uncle Jack's crew. Number 7, the use of music and sound. Just like everything else I've mentioned, the people in charge of Breaking Bad have made some excellent choices when it comes to music and sound on the show. The usage of sound really intensifies some of the dramatic scenes, such as when Walt is losing his mind at the end of Crawl Space, one of my favorite scenes, by the way, as well as when Hank is driving in his car after finding out the truth about Walt. The sound effects really add to the intensity of Hank having this panic attack. While there isn't a lot of music in Breaking Bad, the music that is used really complements the show very well, in my opinion. I feel like the main theme song fits right in with the overall atmosphere of the show. A lot of the music on the show goes along well with the show's sense of humor. You have Gale singing Crappa Palata shortly before his demise, and it's just so absurd, and that's why I absolutely love it. I think it's great. And then you have a lot of various video montages throughout this series that are very funny and very entertaining. You have the mariachi band singing Heisenberg's song, and then you have the song for Wendy, the meth addict, and the prostitute. Then you have a moment where Walt is listening to A Horse with No Name in his car, and that's the kind of music that I would expect Walter White to listen to and grow up with. So once again, really well done by the creators of Breaking Bad with their music selections. And finally, last but not least, you have Baby Blue as the final song to end the series, which I felt was absolutely perfect. A perfect fit where you see Walt dying next to his creation, his Baby Blue. And I love the fact that they chose a Badfinger song. Great band, great ending to the show. I seriously get emotional every time I hear that song because it reminds me of Breaking Bad's closing moments. So that concludes my thoughts on Breaking Bad and why it is the greatest television show ever produced. I would like to thank Vince Gilligan and his crew for creating such a timeless masterpiece. If you enjoyed this video, please share it on social media. You can add me on Facebook at Aaron Rift. You can follow me on Twitter at Aaron Rift, and you can check out my Instagram at Aaron Rift. Thank you all very much for watching.